Afternoon, my name is Tristan Jacobo, and today I'm here to talk to you about communication with relational partners. Really quick, before I get started into the bulk of that, I have handouts with some quick links and quick tips as to what we're going to be speaking about today. To start off with, I have a little video. I'll go ahead and play that.
Good communication has two properties. You express your feelings openly and directly, and you encourage the other person to express his or her feelings. You say how you are thinking and feeling, and you try to listen and understand what the other person is thinking and feeling. Bad communication, on the other hand, involves a refusal to share your feelings openly or to listen to what the other person has to say. Instead, you are defensive. Another sign of bad communication is denying your own feelings and acting them out indirectly. Hi everybody, I'm Tori Fitzgerald, the founder of Redesign My Life, and I want to help you redesign your relationships. People who can communicate effectively during times of conflict and strong disagreements are exceedingly rare, but these are the situations where good communication is vital. The key to intimacy, friendship, and success in business is the ability to handle conflict successfully. Let's take a look at a few characteristics of bad communication. Sarcasm. Your words or tone of voice convey tension or hostility, which you aren't openly acknowledging. Passive-aggressive. You pout or withdraw or say nothing. You may storm out of the room or slam doors. Counterattack. Instead of acknowledging how the other person feels, you respond to their criticism by criticizing them. Diversion. Instead of dealing with how you both feel in the here and now, you list grievances about past injustices. Deny. You insist that you don't feel angry, hurt, or sad when you really do. In Build Relationships That Matter, we examine good communication and how to navigate through conflict in ways that don't destroy a relationship. Sign up today to find out more.
In the modern age today, one of the leading stressors that are between individuals in a relationship, whether it is a formal relationship, through work, through business means, whether it is a more intimate or friendship, tends to now be stemming more at that communication aspect. So today I want to address the ability to become more efficient at communicating with a relational partner. In this topic today, we will first discuss what communication is, followed up by what is a relational partner, and then finally effective tips on communicating with a relational partner. Let's start with communication. According to Understanding Human Communication, the formal definition is the process of creating meaning through symbolic interaction. Simplifying that down, it is the speaking or demonstrating the understanding and then perceiving of a thought, emotion, or other idea of another individual. And going back to that first definition, it talked about a process, and that it is more of a symbolic process. That process is taking in the information, understanding it, and then being able to continue talking about it or perceive it. That symbolic side comes from the idea that communication is more abstract. As I'm talking to you now, communication is what we're talking about. I don't have anything here that definitively says this is communication. Rather, it would be the same as if the video I showed you or PowerPoint. It is a symbol of being able to talk about an idea behind it. The next part is going to be relational partners. And for here, this is where it's going to delve a little bit differently. I'm going to focus more on that friendship and romantic intimacy communication rather than on the business aspect of communication. Relational partner, according to Understanding Human Communication, is really any interpersonal social interaction that you have between one individual and yourself. This can be from a more formal, a work relationship between coworkers, between a boss and the subordinates, and even customers that are communicating. can also involve family and friendship aspects, whether it's two individuals or more, discussing and being able to communicate. Finally, that more romantic, intimate side where it is a partnership that is talking to each other and revealing more. Some of the aspects to be able to communicate effectively in these we'll cover later, but the basis of that communication is the expressing and ability to relate and understand other individuals' feelings, thoughts, and ideas without discouraging them from being able to further take action. And finally, we'll go over what are some effective means of communicating. So, thinking back more to that romantic and the intimate side, you already have that emotional, mental, physical closeness, but that communication is something that you need to work continuously at. As I mentioned earlier, one of the leading causes of stress in relationships today, and in any circumstance, is that lack of communication, that lack of clarity. So some things that you can do to be able to be a more effective listener and communicator is starting with being a good listener, being active in what they're saying, understanding it, and then knowing how to respond to them rather than just interjecting or not really listening at all. The second part would be validating their feelings. You can think probably of multiple times throughout life where you've had an idea or you felt something and someone cut you off or pushed back saying, oh, you shouldn't be feeling that way. As a person expressing their idea, that really affects you in a manner that makes you think, why am I even thinking this? I can't really go anywhere with this because every time I bring it up, it's going to be shot down. So as a listener, as a communicator with someone else, that's going to be more of the validating how they're feeling, how their idea is. And if there's issues with it, that's where the third aspect of having open dialogue and understanding where they're coming from and being open about ideas or about the feelings and thoughts that you have yourself. Thirdly, I would say that give and take equally in a conversation and listening to them. Don't intimidate them per se and dominate the conversation, but take a little bit of time to express how you're feeling and then switch over to how they're feeling. And take time between each individual going back and forth. And focusing now more on those romantic intimate relationships, learn their love language. Are they an individual that refers more to words of affirmation? Is it more of someone that likes gifts, quality time, physical touch? And on the sheet that I handed out, I have all those listed, as well as a link that if you do not know your partner's love language, that you can go and take that. It has a variety of questions, that way you can understand that.
We used to have that link.
All right.
Long time ago.
And even with that, it's something that doesn't necessarily apply only to your romantic or intimate partner. You can use this with your friends, with your family. How are they going to respond based off of how their love language is? Well, it isn't necessarily only an intimate thing. It is a social thing that is in society has become more towards family, only towards intimate relationships, but historically love was not just for that. It also expanded on love of mankind and love of your community. Now, let's think of some things we shouldn't do. If you're getting defensive whenever something's brought up, you shouldn't react defensively and start shutting it down, start criticizing. As the video said earlier, don't avoid the conversations, don't put it off and say, oh no, we're not going to talk about this now, we're going to push this off till later on. Don't intimidate the other individual either. In either of these aspects, it's going to shut down the idea and the desire for an individual to want to communicate openly with you. Today we went over why communication is now important, especially in a modern day where relationships, whether they are formal, informal, intimate, or family, are the main stressor between two people. Covered what communication is and what can be covered by, what a relational partner is, and then effective ways of communicating and some do-nots of communicating with a partner. Any questions for me?
Yeah.
How do you find now that we're using a lot of like text message, like how do you feel like we could incorporate some of the different love languages into that rather than, because it's like hard to understand. Sometimes it's like, oh no, that was meant to be sarcastic, no, that was meant, that was not meant in like a serious way type of situation.
Yelling at you or.
Yeah. Are you guys considering that now with like
There's no tone.
Yeah.
to it. It's just out there.
It really is, especially right now with text messages, emails, letters. It's kind of this is just what's written. You don't know the tone.
Mhm.
I think that's being helped by Apple and Samsung putting in the
like emojis?
emojis
Yeah.
into it.
Okay.
Then you can add those into being able to send something over, and especially when it comes to physical touch and
Yeah.
gifts, that's a little bit harder to do over messaging, over
Mhm.
social media. You could send small gifts via text messages or emails to each other,
Yeah.
especially applicable with long distance between individuals that you want to maintain that kind of relationship with. And then physical touch is just one that
Yeah, you can.
cannot really be done over media itself.
Mhm.
You can talk about it, but it's not necessarily something you can actively do.
Yeah. Cool. That's awesome.
Right on.
Thank you for your time today.
Good. Thanks, Kristen. This is actually interesting.